It is finals time here at the Standard Super League. Still Randy Bueller, still joined by Luis Scott Vargas. We're getting ready to watch the first place battle this week. It's going to be Josh Layton against Gerry Thompson. And they're both running versions of the Jeskai deck that has been around Standard basically since Mantis Rider was printed in Khans of Tarkir.
Yeah, the printing of Mantis Rider, Mystic Monastery, and Dig Through Time were pretty good for the Jeskai deck because they created it from whole cloth. But I think that the deck's probably been slightly underplayed, but I also don't think that it has strayed too far from people's consciousness. It's just there's an ebb and flow in Standard. I think that's one of the things that this format's really done right, like that we didn't see last year, and I think has been awesome. That if you take the top 15 decks, and it's amazing that there are 15 to begin with.
Yeah.
3 or 4 are going to be out of favor at any given time. Jeskai just happens to have been one of those for a while.
All right, looks like these guys are ready. Let's get down to the match. Gerry Thompson's going to be on the top of your screen. I gave these decks different names because they're off by a good 12, 15 cards. They're both fundamentally Jeskai decks, though. I mean, Josh is a little more aggressive. Gerry's a little more controllish the way they've got their main deck configured, but they have access to a lot of the same tools.
Yeah, and I'm not really hung up about the names because I think that there was never really a great name for this archetype to begin with. I just think fundamentally they're very similar. But again, it goes back to our previous conversation, which was I actually care more about why you're trying to classify it than whether they're exactly the same or not. And when you're trying to look at like how the decks play, I mean, the decks do have some different things going on, and you do have to keep that in mind.
All right, Josh leads with Secret of the Way. Gerry has a Soulfire Grandmaster.
And this turns a little unfortunate for Josh since he would love to just slam Rabblemaster, but Rabblemaster into Grandmaster is not as productive. So he gets to play a post-combat Rabblemaster if Gerry doesn't block here. But yeah, even if Gerry does, you still might just Rabblemaster here.
Well, Gerry's going to block, and Josh could trigger Prowess on his Seeker, gaining life and keeping the Seeker alive, but he'd have to spend his mana. He only gets to do one thing this turn.
Yeah. I could see the two main options basically are just Jeskai Charm Gerry's face or cast a Rabblemaster. You really want to save Lightning Strike for Mantis Rider, and I like casting Rabblemaster. Gerry has to spend his turn killing it. If Gerry can't, which is the case, you get a huge advantage. You get to next turn go Rabblemaster Stoke, and the game's almost over at that point.
All right, it looks like Gerry's play is going to be his Mantis Rider?
Yeah, for sure he's going to play Mantis Rider here. Well, he could actually play a face-down Stratus Dancer, but that just makes less sense. I would rather play face-up Stratus Dancer or Scryland. If you wanted to play Stratus Dancer, I would prefer to play Mantis Rider, though. You really don't want to get wild slashed here, though. As it turns out, Gerry's just kind of wrecked. I think that, again, against a deck with no sweepers, going Rabblemaster into Stoke your Mantis Rider, especially since I think Josh will have his stop set, I can see at the beginning of combat there, is pretty awesome.
Yeah, the one on screen is our observer stops, but that's fine. Well, here is 2 Rabblemaster triggers, 2 tokens. Josh does have the stop set correctly so that before those goblins are forced to attack, he can stoke the flames to kill Mantis Rider. Now he's got 2 Rabblemasters, already got 2 tokens, and yeah, how does Gerry come back from this?
He doesn't. I mean, there's just Gerry's best play would have been to untap and use a kill spell on a Rabblemaster, but because he's not able to do that, Josh just has free reign. Actually, does Josh even have lethal this turn? He gets to attack for 16. I guess it's not lethal, but it's just millions. He gets a Lightning Strike and attack with 2 6/2 Goblin, or no 7/2 Goblin Rabblemaster. He gets attacked for 18.
Yeah, Lightning Strike takes down Mantis Rider.
Yeah, Rabblemaster into Stoke is one of the more broken things at Standard. You get to play 7 mana worth of cards, for 3 mana, depending on how many creatures you have. So the fact that Jeskai does get to do that sometimes is a point in its favor.
Wow, more Mantis Riders for Gerry, but none of that's going to deal with Rabblemaster. This is just a Rabblemaster game. This is why you put Goblin Rabblemaster in your deck, is sometimes you just get to do that.
Yeah, it's one of the most snowball cards in Standard where once you get ahead, you just get incredibly far ahead. You almost no coming back. So yeah. It's why a 3-mana 2/2 gets played in Standard, is because if it survives, you almost always win the game. It dies to almost everything, but if it doesn't, then your opponent does.
Yeah, and just the threat of that snowball beginning is also why you see so many people, not tapping out when their opponent's about to have 3 mana for the first time. You just leave up the kill spell in case the Rabble Master's coming.
Exactly.
All right, so Josh Utter-Layton quickly puts a game on the scoreboard. Now, sideboarding. What happens when these guys sideboard for this matchup?
It's funny that they have like the dance of like, Gerry has like Anger the Gods, but Josh has Brimaz, and Brimaz is mainly for this matchup. So I think it is pretty interesting to look and see that Josh gets to go a combination of Wild Slash and Brimaz is pretty good here. I wouldn't imagine Josh wants Valor Stance anywhere near his deck anymore, but other than that, most of the cards are reasonable. Heel Cutter, you don't need either. You're not playing against big, good blockers. You're just trying to kill everything. And Disdainful Stroke and Dig Through Time kind of have an interesting counterplay where they're not that good against that many cards, but the kind of games Josh predicts, I think they're going to be good.
All right, and then Gerry is an Anger the Gods deck now?
Well, no, he's got a couple Angers that he could put in his deck, but because he knows Josh has Brimaz, he's got, more of an incentive to have like Roast and Glare and not as many Angers. Again, it's going to be curious to see how many Disdainful Strokes are running around in these decks because they have some utility against Dig, which is a really crucial card, but are so blank against everything else. This is the kind of matchup where you would want like a negate over a Dig or a Disdainful Stroke, but unfortunately, you don't have room for everything. Mastery of the Unseen is interesting too because Gerry has 2 and Josh has 1. I'm curious. If you think it's just a draw-go game, Mastery of the Unseen does get better. When you play Mastery and your opponent has Wild Slash Lightning Strike in hand, it's pretty good for you that they're going to run out of cards and you're not.
All right, Gerry has been to the finals once before. You see the 30 points for him. He is currently tied for 3rd behind the guys who've actually won a week. Owen and Paul were 35 points coming in. I guess, is Gerry going to be first no matter what now with the 20 points he gets, even if he loses this? I think that's how it works out. All right, sounds like these guys are ready for the match. Now, how do these draws shape up? Has Josh got a card off screen to the left, or is he down to 6? Gerry definitely down to 6.
Well, Josh couldn't have mulliganed because Gerry has to mulligan first. So, I mean, even if it's a draw-go game, I think it's a little ambitious to choose to draw first in a Rabble Master Manus Rider matchup. Here, Gerry's in a pretty good spot. This is one of the strengths that he has that Josh doesn't have access to, is that Josh can, play a tap line, and Gerry can, if he wants, just play a Hordling Outburst, and it interacts very well against Wild Slash and Lightning Strike. Though Gerry could also just play Mantis Rider because Josh can't kill it with 1 mana available. So that's also a very reasonable play.
You would not Rabble Master?
No, Rabble Master here is insane.
Wild Slash?
There's just no chance that Gerry does that, I don't think. Like, his other 2 options both play around the only card Josh could have, so you should do that. And I like Mantis Rider more because you're going to get a guaranteed hit in, and just getting 1 hit in is already pretty good. Trading 1 for 1 when your opponent takes 3 is a good deal for you.
All right, looks like Josh is going to go ahead and Lightning Strike now.
I don't think he technically needs to do that. They have access to deck lists, and I don't think Gerry can actually stop that. So
Is Valorous Stance?
But yeah, I guess because of Josh's Brimaz's, Gerry has to have Valor Stance in his deck. So that actually makes some sense.
That's what he's playing around, right?
Yeah.
So you could argue he doesn't need to play around it because Gerry's going to take them out.
Yeah. We're going to see the same thing happen on the other side here. Josh is going to play Brimaz to try to stabilize because it's so much more mana efficient than playing Wild Slash, and Gerry gets to go like Hordling Outburst into Stoke, and it looks like he doesn't even have the Angers in his deck.
Wow, it's another Rabble Master Snowball game, huh?
So Brimaz dies. Rabble Master gets to attack with its goblins for 6. Josh does get to go Mantis Rider, Wild Slash, or Rabble Master. Could even actually play Soulfire Grandmaster, Wild Slash, or Rabble Master. No, Josh is going to actually have a chance here, whereas Gerry didn't. It looks like Josh is running the Mantis Rider if he's going to Wild Slash first. Gerry can just send 5 goblins into Mantis Rider, though. So that actually makes me kind of want to just play Soulfire Grandmaster, immediately Stoke Rabble Master, go to 12. You can't race Soulfire Grandmaster against 5 goblins. Like, attacking 5 goblins into a lifelinker just doesn't work. But it looks like Josh is going to run the Mantis Rider here.
There's Mantis Rider. Lets him start attacking. Well, if he tapped out for Lightning Strike, wouldn't he also tap out for Wild Slash here?
For sure, yeah. Especially since he's going to have to
Knows he has to
play
kill
it
that.
before
Goes
attacks
ahead and
anyway.
get that done. Here's a Temple. Both players with Dig Through Time in their hand, setting up for the future. Mantis Rider's going to pick off one of these goblins, but Gerry does get through for 4 damage here.
And now Gerry gets to pass with Ojutai's command up, which can't bring anything back, but can still just draw a card.
Now, how worried should Josh be about that? I mean,
he can't do much about it because Gerry could also just have Dig. As it turns out, Gerry has both. So he drew a Dig, which is an awesome draw. Josh is going to play Soulfire Grandmaster, and I imagine it's going to get Ojutai's commanded here.
Yeah, I would think so.
Now, this is kind of why I wanted to play Soulfire Grandmaster last turn, because Mantis Rider by itself doesn't really stabilize quite enough. I guess technically Josh goes to 3, then he goes to 2, then he goes to 1. So technically it stabilizes, but it's so much safer. And now Josh actually just dies to a Lightning Strike.
Yeah, well, I mean, 3, 2, 1 would have killed him anyway. Stoke, I guess, would have to kill a goblin to throw the math off.
Yeah.
In any case, Ojutai's command does stop the Grandmaster, so no lifelink for Josh or Leighton.
Might not be unreasonable to Stoke here. You play around dying to Lightning Strike, and you can't cast Dig this turn anyway, so it's not a pleasant play, but I don't really know if you get a whole lot better here. Josh probably does not like that kind of value. I don't think Josh is going to do it, yeah.
Yeah, he takes 3 from the goblins. Not interested in using Stoke just to kill a 1/1 goblin token. So he is now in Lightning Strike range, but he's also got some mana untapped, so Gerry's going to... What does he have to play around?
Not a whole lot, actually. I mean, Gerry knows he
studied the deck list. You know, if you don't know the deck list, you have to worry about things like negate, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think Gerry's knows he's in pretty good shape here. Josh has to tap out to not lose this game at some point anyway, and Gerry has like a Dig Through Time, so I think he's going to be fine.
So Temple looking at Mantis Rider. Gerry debating whether that goes on the top or the bottom. Okay, Josh is now going to Stoke.
Stoke Gerry down to 9 to try to win the game. You know,
but he's going to die to Lightning Strike as a response. So Gerry Thompson sends us to game number 3.
Yeah, we've had a lot of game 3s today. Actually, they? I guess we didn't see Paul's match, but all the ones we've seen on camera have gone to game 3, I believe. Oh no, I guess Cuneo did die to.
Yeah, Cuneo lost 2 straight.
Yeah.
So 1 game for the week 3 title and the 35 points.
Gerry looks to be in first regardless, but I mean, picking up the points are still very relevant. He can't guarantee he's making the finals every week.
Yeah, it's effectively a 15-point game. You get 10 points for winning a match. You get 5-point bonus for winning the week. Gerry's already got a finals loss and a semifinals loss, so his 30 points is at least 50, but 65. Now he's like he can mess around when he gets to 65 points. He's in very good shape to make the top 3 if he's got 65 points after 3 weeks. 50 puts him in first, but it's a much closer first.
Yeah, I guess you have to look at like the total points distributed and see what the average would ends up being. So, and to try to figure out what it's going to look like to make the top 3. Top 3 is also a cutoff that's not like intuitive to me what it's going to take.
Right, 3 out of 8. It's slightly less than half the field, but then again, the 1 seed is also a big deal, right? Getting the bye straight to the finals is certainly. I mean, you want to make the playoffs, but you'd much rather make the playoffs as the 1 seed and not have to play that first round.
Yeah, one of the biggest matches in the Vintage Super League was actually the last week where me, Ifro, and Chris were all battling for the 1 seed, and me and Ifro both lost and Chris won, so he ended up picking it up.
Just so you guys know, we do have an experiment coming up, not next week, but the week after. We're going to have a 1-week Modern experiment. So Standard Super League is actually 7 weeks of Standard and 1 week of Modern, kind of in honor of Modern Masters Grand Prix weekend that will be starting a couple of days after our show in 2 weeks.
Josh got some nice Narsets in hand, and they actually look really good right now because Jerry has like Stoke and Anger, and Narset is a very good card when your opponent's doing stuff like that. I like Josh's chances here. He's got the fact that he's on the play with like Seeker into Mantis Rider, has Wild Slash for
Well, he
Soulfire
just drew the third
Grandmaster.
land. That was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, his draw had 2 land when he kept it.
And he did get to scry.
Fair.
Against Anger of the Gods, you don't generally want to jam out 2 creatures into none, but because Jerry did play Soulfire Grandmaster, I like playing the Mantis Rider here and attacking.
That's exactly what Josh does.
Josh is in pretty good shape here. If he draws a land, he gets to play Narset, and Narset's looking very strong on this board. If he doesn't, he still has multiple castable spells.
How good do you think Narset is?
In the matchup, where both players have a lot of removal and there's no one card that can kill it, it seems pretty good. Like, imagine Josh playing a Narset here and having, Narset plus Seeker of the Way against a Narset going up to 7 against a Soulfire Grandmaster.
No 4th land, but he does have a Goblin Rabblemaster.
Yeah, that doesn't actually seem like a bad draw. I think it might have been better to draw than a land. Now, Jerry does get to gain a ton of life if he casts Anger. Anger Soulfire Grandmaster is a nice little combination. Jerry gets to gain 12 life here. So Josh really does want to draw a Narset. It was just a 2 for 2, but...
No 4th land still. He's got a Mantis Rider, though. So yeah, Anger of the Gods deals 3 damage to all the creatures. The lifelink means a ton of life for Jerry. Kind of a cool interaction.
Well, not drawing the 4th land for a couple turns has cost Josh some amount of that equity, because now, Jerry drew an Ashcloud Phoenix, which is good. Now, instead of having a Narset against an empty board, Josh can, play Narset into something, which is not as exciting, though Narset plus here doesn't seem too bad.
Right. I mean, he's basically either got to play Narset or Grandmaster plus Wild Slash. It looks like he's going for the Narset play. Plus, does he hit? What did he reveal? It was a land. Okay. Swing and a miss. 7 loyalty, though.
Yeah, but Jerry, because he now has a 4-power flyer out, my enthusiasm over Narset has diminished, because Jerry gets to smash into Narset or Mantis Rider, either way. Though Josh could actually block here.
Yeah, no, which Jerry attacked Narset?
Yeah,
yes, Jerry attacked Narset. Josh took it, basically saying, "Well, you want to throw a lightning strike at Narset? I've got another one in my hand." But I think Jerry should, right? Doesn't he?
Yeah, I think Jerry's going to.
And play the Grandmaster.
Yeah, I think Jerry really wanted that land to be kind of untapped, so he could play Narset plus Lightning Strike. The fact that Jerry banked so much life off Anger of the Gods really goes a long way here.
Josh comes into play tapped land, so he still can't Wild Slash plus Narset. He still has to decide on Wild Slash plus Soulfire or Narset. Which line do you like? Looks like he's going to switch it up.
I think I like Soulfire, Wild Slash, the other Soulfire attack, and then play my land. It seems like the best to me. Jerry's pretty far ahead, though, because he's got such a life total advantage, and then he's also got Dig Through Time in hand and Stoke, so he can deal with Mantis Rider as he pleases.
Scryland pushes a land to the bottom. Ashcloud Phoenix keeps coming over.
I expect a Stoke here on actually the Soulfire Grandmaster would be the card that seems the most threatening right now.
Josh is now building up to enough land to start buying back spells. Jerry's just not interested in that happening.
Also, Josh gaining life is very relevant. Just hitting for 2 and gaining 2 is pretty annoying.
Rabblemaster was the draw.
Not bad. Rabblemaster actually can threaten Jerry even at tons of life, so Jerry does get to cast this Dig. If he didn't have Dig, Jerry could actually be in trouble, but because he does, presumably he's going to find good answers to these cards.
All right. Jerry's going to dig.
Yeah, we'll see what Jerry gets once he selects them.
Sounds like Stratus Dancer, 2 commands. Mantis Rider, Jerry's going to try to share with us. I see a Lightning Strike. There's an Irration Cleric in there, too.
Huh. I wonder what his rationale was to board those in. I guess they do stop burn spells, but they don't block particularly well. I guess they block Soulfire Grandmasters, kind of. That's a pretty defensive play. Interesting.
You got to take Lightning Strike here to kill Rabble Master, right?
I imagine that's priority 1, and then priority 2 is either like Command or Stratus Dancer or Mana Shard. Actually, any of those seem very reasonable, but I like going for the long-term value of getting Command into Soulfire Grandmaster.
Looks like that's what he's done. Lightning Strike going to take care of the Rabble Master now.
I think so. I think that you're at high enough life that you can just ignore the Manus Rider. You're fine trading. You're fine racing. Either one of those things makes sense.
Josh draws Stoke the Flames. Now Narset time, presumably.
Yeah, I like playing Narset plussing here. Even if Gerry has a burn spell, you're presumably not dead. It'd be really nice to hit like a Wild Slash off this. That would be ideal.
How about a dig through time?
Not bad. Not the best, but not bad. Narset might actually rebound some cards here. Yeah, Jerry's Ojutai's command is actually not looking insane. He gets to keep attacking with this Ashcloud Phoenix, but Josh gets to, run double of either of his spells next turn. He can actually play both his spells next turn in the same turn.
All right, Ashcloud attacked Josh. Josh took it down to 5.
So
now what do you do?
You got a lot of options.
Yes.
It's really awkward that you can't cast Dig without taking a point of damage, so I'm kind of scared to do that because it's very plausible that Gerry found to Stoke the Flames. You could Stoke the Phoenix, but that doesn't do anything. Gerry can just flip it up again. You could play Brimaz, and you could just, maybe you actually just like plus Narset, attack for 4 plus Narset, play Brimaz,
and
then you can block the Phoenix and then either Stoke it or just Stoke it before blocking it. Either way. And then, yeah, it's actually kind of tough. Or you can just, it might be the best play, honestly, is just to resign yourself to losing to Stoke the Flames and just cast Dig Through Time. And like rebound Dig Through Time and just look for ways to gain life.
Dig will cost him, what, 3 mana plus his graveyard?
3 mana plus his graveyard, but he could easily cast like Stoke first if he wanted to. Like he could attack with just the Mana Strider.
Oh, sure. Save a mana.
Stoke like Gerry, or just Stoke the Ashcloud Phoenix. That actually doesn't. I would not Stoke the Ashcloud Phoenix on your main phase, I don't think. And then just cast Dig. It's kind of awkward that you can't. Well, actually, you can just cast Dig for 3 and then pass with Stoke up. Looks like Josh is going to cast Brimaz. So ideally, he leaves Dig up while casting Brimaz in case Gerry counters it, which actually turns out Gerry is going to do, I would imagine. Yeah, this is a tough turn. There's a lot of options going on here.
Yeah, it's not even clear whether Narset should go up or down.
Yeah.
Here's the attack.
So that attack indicates that Josh is not as interested in casting Stoke. Oh, this will help Josh make his decision, actually.
Interesting.
Because
Gerry going to do with his command?
I think he's going to draw a card and put a Jeskai or the Soulfire Grandmaster into play to block the Goblin. So now Josh knows that Gerry doesn't have Stoke in hand currently.
Sure.
Yeah. And that means that he could cast Dig going to 4, but of course Gerry could draw it off the Ojutai's command, but it makes it a lot less likely because it was likely that Gerry found a Stoke off Dig Through Time. It's a lot less likely now because you know it's not there, even though Gerry could just draw it randomly off the top of his deck. You're less, worried about that. So now it looks like Josh is just going to Stoke the Grandmaster before blocks.
But he did not leave himself Dig Through Time mana?
No, he did not. His plan was not to cast Dig. I guess he's just going to plus Narset. Problem is he couldn't cast Dig now. Otherwise, he would just die to the Phoenix.
Oh, sure. Of course.
So, now you just plus Narset. Wait, he's going to minus. This is awkward. He minus Narset to cast Dig, but just doesn't have double blow.
Oops. He just tapped wrong?
Well, no, he didn't because he couldn't tap right.
Oh,
He
he
would
couldn't
just die
tap
to
right.
the Phoenix.
Side of Ashcroft.
So, I mean, basically what Josh cost himself here was 2 points, 3 points of loyalty off Narset and a look at the top of his library.
Yes.
But that is not great. So I imagine Jerry just attacks Josh down to 1 here.
Yep.
And Josh would have missed, as it turns out. Finding the blue source to cast Dig is not
Yes.
horrendous.
Very true. So Narset would have missed if Josh had played it right. Basically, so all he cost himself was 3 loyalty. Now he can send Narset down, and he's got the pain-free way to dig through time. So dig through time now and rebound. He gets to dig through time at the beginning of his next turn as well.
So what one of Josh's best outs here, besides finding Soulfire plus Stoke, that would be amazing, is block your Ash Cloud Phoenix with Mantis Rider, kill my own Mantis Rider, which is kind of unfortunate, but is what Josh needs to do. So he found, looks like he found, yeah, he found the Soulfire Grandmaster, and he found a Wild Slash, and he found the Stoke the Flames. So actually, Soulfire Grandmaster Stoke the Flames. I mean, that was what he was looking for.
Wow. I mean, the problem is if he kills the Ash Cloud Phoenix, he comes back face down. It can be flipped for lethal. We've already seen that play once today. That is the thing that Josh has been trying to avoid this whole time.
Yeah, what I think Josh is going to do is attack for 4 and then play Soulfire Grandmaster, and then just stoke Jerry, go back up to 5, and just hope Jerry doesn't draw a burn spell.
There's the Soulfire Grandmaster.
And then next turn, Josh gets to dig, and so actually Jerry has 1 turn to top deck here. I think Josh.
Yeah, pretty much. Josh is turn, right?
Yeah, I would imagine Josh is going to win the game. He has lethal on the board if Jerry attacks, actually. Because Josh stokes Jerry down to 6 after attacking him and has 6 points on the board. Plus, he's getting to cast a dig through time. So, remember on upkeep. So that is going to be presumably enough.
Can Jerry Thompson top deck the win? He's got Josh Layton down to 1 last point of life.
So whether you wait now is kind of interesting because if you wait, then Mantis Rider's not an out. But if you wait like something like Lightning, actually Lightning Strike's going to kill you if you just do it now anyway. So I guess waiting is probably better. A counter spell kills you though, Disdainful Stroke. I think basically the question is whether you want to die to Mantis Rider. Also, Rabblemaster would kill you if Jerry had one of those. So waiting might be bad. You could, if Jerry didn't attack with the Goblin, or if Josh didn't attack with the Goblin, then Rabblemaster wouldn't be an out if you did it now. Or you could tap the Goblin to do it and leave Mantis Rider untapped, so Mantis Rider wouldn't be an out. I feel like the only card that you lose to if you wait is Disdainful Stroke. And
Seems
Jerry,
like you lose to more by tapping out than you do by waiting.
I think so. And I don't think you want to kill the Phoenix because that still does 2 if you flip it, so you still die to Lightning Strike and Stoke.
Land is the draw for Jerry Thompson.
So Josh doesn't have a guaranteed win here, but he is very, very likely to. If Jerry attacks, then Josh does win the game.
All right, here's the attack. Josh can stoke Jerry to go up to 5, take the 4 from the Phoenix to go back down to 1, and we know that would win him the game on his next turn. Josh doesn't know that, though. Josh doesn't realize that Jerry has land in play, so he's still trying to think about all the things he might need to play around. I mean, blocking the Phoenix has got to be at least a little bit tempting. Right now you're not at 1. Now you go 5. Okay, if Jerry spends a bunch of mana, he can knock you back down to 3. And that looks like what Josh is going to do. He's got dig through time rebounding at the beginning of his next turn. So,
yeah, and you would lose to any burn spell anyway if you didn't block.
Right.
So blocking makes sense.
So he does block. He stokes Jerry. So Jerry's now at 6. Ash Cloud Phoenix comes back face down, of course.
So, again, Josh doesn't have the win here, but he does get to dig through time. He had, exiled it to rebound last turn with Narset, so it's pretty hard to miss here.
Wild Slash looked like it's in there. What is it? Wild Slash. Is there another Stoke? Stoke's lethal, right?
Yeah, it looks like you found Wild Slash, Stoke, Lightning Strike. Yeah, just everything.
Just everything, no problem. So we've both seen Dig Through Time rebought with Soulfire Grandmaster and rebounded with Narset.
Yeah.
Josh Utter-Leyton, ladies and gentlemen.
So Josh can attack here. Pretty much, he knows Gerry doesn't have anything, so he's going to be able to win the game here.
Yeah, Gerry just blocks the Grandmaster.
So the question is, does Josh pass here to like make Gerry flip his Phoenix? He looks like Josh did pass. Jerry's going to flip the Phoenix. Josh is going to Stoke, and then that should do it. No reason not to just Stoke right now.
Mm-hmm. Jeskai looks like it's got a lot of tools. A lot of sweet value plays. Dueling Jeskai decks in the finals, and it looks like Josh Utter-Leyton is the one who's going to get the W. He likes the Phoenix flip, dealing 2 damage to both players, and now here is Lightning Strike for the win. All right, nice job, Raptor. Try to get Raptor in here for a winner interview. Gerry will have to settle for a second place.
Yep. And looks like, yeah, again, the points race still staying pretty close here. No repeat winners yet. Not actually that many repeat finalists.
Right. Owen will be, Jerry's the only repeat finalist, I think. Owen is at, what, 35 plus 10 for 45. Paul's at 35. Yeah, it's pretty close. Josh is obviously now at 35.
Yeah.
And then I guess Tom's going to hang out at 30, having lost his first round. So pretty tight. Everybody's on the scoreboard now. We did have 2 people at 0, but both Brad and Josh got off the schneid. I guess Brad's going to be tied for last with
Kibler,
Andrew and Brian still only have 10 points.
Yeah, they each have like 1 win over to 3 weeks.
Yeah, 1 and 2 records. Interesting stuff. I don't know. Jury's still out on this format in my mind. It seems kind of interesting. I mean, do you have an opinion on the whole, like, Vintage Super League was obviously this long round robin over the course of the season, just accumulating records, whereas here we've got the sort of single elimination bracket each week?
On the one hand, I do like new deck lists every week because we get to see new stuff. We get to, the turnover rate on deck lists is more. I do think that the people in the Vintage Super League, because you're committing to 3 weeks per deck list, spent more time on their deck lists because you know you're getting locked in. Like, to some degree, the competitors here, and I actually don't even blame them. When you have to turn a deck list every single week, you can't test it for 4 days. Like, that's just that's not a realistic thing. So you're going to see some amount of that. And there's more week-to-week metagaming, which has upsides, but it's like, yeah, I'm playing against Kibler, I'm going to play a deck that has a lot of removal, or I'm playing against Cuneo, I'm going to play a deck with Stratus Dancers. Like, again, this isn't like hardcore main deck slay metagaming, but you can't really do that in Vintage Super League quite as much. Like, you can play, people's tendencies, but you're playing 3 different people. You're rarely going to get to line up something that's great against all 3.
And that was one of the reasons we set up the 3-week rotation in Vintage Super League, was so that you'd never be choosing a deck against exactly one opponent. We knew that that would lead to some weird deck choices. Yeah, and here, you're not choosing it against only one opponent, but you only have one guaranteed opponent, and then, and getting that 1 win is nice. So.
Well, I also think it's better for Standard because Standard has very few like super linear polarized matchups, whereas in Vintage, if you play against someone who like always plays workshops, that's very different than Standard. Like, let's say everyone knew that Brad was going to play like Obs on aggro 70% of the time. You still can't really like pick a deck that crushes that. There are very few decks that are just that good against it. So I think that Vintage Super League, it's more of a concern than in Standard Super League. So I have so far liked the format, but I want to see kind of how it plays out through all the weeks. I mean, I guess in both formats you're going to have people near the end of the season who know they can't make it, but they're also, I mean, the battle for last is also a very real thing.
All true. Yeah, it may just be that they're supposed to be different and that we've got decent formats for the details of what's going on in those 2.
Exactly.
All right. I know we're in the process of getting Josh lined up. Let's take a look at how he got here into the winner interview. Week 3 bracket. Josh Utter-Leyton is your winner. There's the picture. Nice. Josh over Gerry in the finals, having beaten Owen in he played a couple of close matches, right? I mean, Josh, both the semifinal and the final were super tight.
Yeah, and that is a feature of Jeskai, though. That's actually one of the reasons I know Josh likes Jeskai and I like Jeskai is that you tend to play really close games, and if you make good decisions and play them well, then you win those games. Sometimes you -2 Narset and pass the turn, but it's still like the kind of deck that leans towards these close racing games where the momentum shifts often, and those games are hard to play from both sides, which kind of forces your opponents to like play this game maybe they're not prepared to play. Normally people like, all right, I'm playing this deck, it plays out in this way, but all of a sudden you're playing against a Jeskai deck that half the game is trying to control the game and all of a sudden is attacking you with Mantis Riders and you're just going to die.
Makes sense. Meanwhile, Gerry's route to the finals went through Andrew Cuneo, where Stratus Dancer shined, and went through Brad Nelson in the semifinals. Brad showed up with Obs on aggro this week. It's another pretty close match. We saw a lot of game threes.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like we got Josh ready. Congratulations.
Thanks.
You played that game perfectly.
Oh my god, that turn was so bad.
So no spoilers, but I might actually use that turn for what's the play this week, because you actually had a ton of very different, interesting options. I mean, I would not recommend the line you chose, and I'm probably not going to mention it mockingly in the article, but
well, I did the worst possible thing at every point.
Yeah, but there was a lot of ways you could have played that.
Yeah. And I managed to find the worst out of all of them.
Well, Narset -2 go is generally not the sign of like a really well thought out turn, but
well, I did think it out. I just thought it out thinking my land tapped for blue.
But the Miracle Island into dig into Stoke plus Grandmaster was pretty good.
It was okay. I'd call it like medium plus.
Yeah. Huh.
Any other key moments in that match? Any other sort of interesting decision points you had to face?
Don't really remember off the top of my head.
It's just you can't get past the one that you got wrong.
Yeah,
I
pretty much.
have been guilty of that in my own thinking a time or two.
Well, the first two games was both, kind of like the Jeskai thing where someone just has a threat, gets ahead, and just kind of crushes from there. Like you obviously ran Gerry over with Rabble Masters in game one, and you were kind of like a beat behind the entire game in game two.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it looked like I got crushed in game two, but if a single one of my lands came in play untapped, I'm pretty sure like I just destroyed him that game.
Yeah, because you would have been able to Wild Slash.
Behind, but with one land that comes in play untapped, then I'm just one turn ahead the entire game because I get to like cast a removal spell, untap, play a guy, and then that's basically how the matchup works. Is that whoever gets to stick the first thing, there's no like coming back from it, and like you're able to just like get something out of it every turn, whether it's damage or a token from Rattle Master. Like the person who like gets the initiative is generally going to win.
I actually think that's changed a little bit with Soulfire Grandmaster. That's one of the few cards that can actually kind of swing it back a little, because if you go Grandmaster into Stoke, you kind of bought yourself a turn's worth of attacks, which means that you can come back from a Mantis Rider.
Yeah, that's true. That reminds me of the other thing I did mess up. I played Mantis Rider into his board of a bunch of Goblin tokens rather than Soulfire Grandmaster. And the reason I did that was because I wanted the Mantis Rider to die and the Soulfire to stick. But that, like...
Ojutai's command.
Given that he has Ojutai's command in his deck, that might have been, like, really bad. But it's still, like... I don't know, it's hard to say. He has a lot more removal spells than counter spells, but that ended up going really poorly for me.
Yeah, I said I would Grandmaster, but I also I could see the hands, so it's obviously a little harder for me to figure it out. Yeah. But I think one reason I liked Grandmastering was you got the guaranteed 2-off Wild Slash, which seemed like it was going to be relevant, and if he didn't have a removal, the payoff is much higher than Mantis Rider.
Yes, the payoff is much higher if he doesn't have removal, for sure.
So, I don't know, I thought that was close, and it's hard for me to be objective given that I had the omniscient power to see everything.
Talk to us about the first round. We didn't really get to hear anything about your match against Tom Ross. He was playing Bant Heroic, I guess, and it sounds like you guys went to 3 games?
Yeah, well, game 1 he went turn 1 guy, turn 2 Ordeal on the play, which is, usually pretty tough to beat for most decks, but I just turn 2 Valorous Stanced it, and that was kind of how the match went.
Ah, okay.
Game two, I had a pretty bad draw. Like I just had a shock into Rabblemaster into one removal spell, and he just overran me. And then game three, he played one creature, and I killed it, and that was the game.
Fair enough. That is how heroic matches tend to come out, right? You get to kill the one creature, they don't have a game.
Yeah, Jeskai is pretty well set up for being heroic too. It's just like all like super fast clocks and just like really cheap interaction for their guys too. So it's basically the last thing that heroic wants to see.
Yeah, once Valorous Stance came out, that just meant that they never had an out to like make an unkillable guy, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it used to be the turn one guy and the turn two ordeal would be absurd because that gets it around all of the cheap burn spells, and then by the time they can get to the Jeskai Charm or whatever, you can protect it. But Valorous Stance is quite the card there.
And then the semifinal win against Owen. I know we had a chance to chat with you after that. Seems like you played a couple of close ones here. A couple of games where the last point of life. It's the only one that really counts, right?
Dig Through Time did its work as double demonic tutor for me. Let's just put it that way.
Right, and you both got to buy it back with Soulfire Grandmaster and rebound it with Narset.
Sure did.
That's good times. That's a fun evening of Magic when you get to do both of those things.
That is a lot of demonic tutoring.
All right, well, congratulations, Josh. Nice job winning the week. One last thing I want to do before we go is I do want to show you guys next week's bracket. So week 4 for Standard Super League, we'll be back same time, same place next week. There you get a look at the pairings. Josh will be paired against Brian Kibler in the first round. Jerry Thompson and Paul Cheon are the other match on that side of the bracket. Owen takes on Brad, and Tom takes on Andrew. I don't know. They're always such good matchups. I never know which one to actually take a look at or think might be the featured match. Usually wait for the deck list to decide.
Yeah, the deck lists I think are the tiebreaker because everyone here is exciting to watch. It's just who came up with deck lists that look sweet that don't have Temur Battle Rages in them.
I liked the Temur Battle Rage deck. That was awesome. I enjoyed it. You actually tested that for the Pro Tour, right? I mean, that was kind of mostly a real deck.
It was a deck I brewed up for the Pro Tour, yeah.
I mean, what is your approach to Standard Super League in terms of brews versus sort of good decks?
I'm playing this to entertain the viewers and have fun and hopefully learn some myself. So like this is very much like a testing grounds for me. This is a chance to be able to play things I wouldn't play necessarily at a Grand Prix, but get to play them in like a competitive environment and kind of put them through the paces.
Makes sense to me. We've enjoyed watching it. Obviously worked out well for you this week. That should just about wrap things up for Standard Super League. See you guys next week. Keep in mind Magic Online Championships are coming up this weekend. We get to watch Vintage and Standard and Modern for that. And Standard will be back on Tuesday of next week. We will see you guys then.